Okay, so this is the context in which Captain Cook arrives. He arrives during a time of war. Okay, so moving on. So let's look at another sort of interesting fact about Captain Cook and the number three. Okay, so he had 3 voyages into the Pacific. Another interesting three that happened was that he actually arrived in Hawaii not once, not twice, but 3 times. Okay, so he arrived, left, and arrived again. Okay, 3 times. Okay, so Lono i Kamakahiki. So his first time, January 1778, he lands on the island of Kauai and then leaves again. Okay, and he comes back almost a year later. Okay, he's up there where you saw the blue line up into the Pacific and the top in the Bering Sea, um, and comes back in 1778 in November. And then he moves on to Hawaii Island a year later, January 1779. Okay, and then his third voyage, we're going to describe later, and with the term Hiakua he Kanaka. Is he a god or is he a man? Okay, so if you see here in this picture, okay, this reflects back to Lono i Kamakahiki. Okay, so this here was a symbol of Lono. Okay, and during the Makahiki season, right, Lono i Kamakahiki, Lono of the Makahiki, this long tapa was flown. Okay, and the Li'i symbolized this. This represented Lono, and Lono was brought out. Ku was put away. Lono was brought out, and it was taken around the islands, and taxes were collected in order to appease the Akua and pay the Ali'i. Right, that was their right as feudal lords. So off in the distance, in January of 1778, this thing appears on the horizon. Okay, and look at its shape and look at its color. Right, it has these long masts, has this cross piece. Right, all these different cross pieces has this long flowing tapa, this long flowing tapa. So during the time of Lono, right, people naturally looked out and said, "Wow, that really looks like the Akua Lono." Right, He Akua He Kanaka. What is that out there? Is that a god or is that a man? Okay, so what we're gonna find is that there's just weird coincidences that happen with the arrival of Captain Cook to sort of lead people to believe maybe he was an Akua. Okay, um, but it's going to be left to the Hawaiian to realize and sort of go through these things and figure out, nah, he's not an Akua. Okay, that he's just a man. So he lands on his first voyage, where you see the red star there in Waimea. Okay, Kekaha's over there, and off to the other side, Nawiliwili Harbor, Lihue, so on and so forth. Kapa'a. Okay, and just to kind of provide a context to who he was. Okay, so chief at the time of this island of Kauai was named Ka'eo. Okay, and we have accounts from Cook's men about the Hawaiians. Okay, but we also have things that were said about Cook from the Hawaiian perspective, and I like reading this because it's really sort of speaks to this idea of what's on the header. Was he a god or man? Okay, because the Hawaiians immediately tested him. Okay, they weren't just sort of like you saw in the first contact video, just falling down and crying and going, "Oh my gosh, who is that?" Right? They were warriors, so they didn't fear this person, and they stepped to him and they tested him. You know what I mean? And that's the Hawaiian way. So as you read here, kind of interesting because this tells us a couple of things. One, Ka'eo, chief of Kauai, sent Kaneaka Ho'ovaha and Kaukapua'a to Kahahana on Oahu to relate all that had happened at the coming of Captain Cook. Okay, so stop there. What this tells us is that everybody knew. This news spread like wildfire. Fire went from Kauai all the way around Kauai and all the way to Oahu, right? I mean, it happened fast. This was huge news. So, but how Cook's men were described in the Hawaiian language, in the Hawaiian thinking, in this first-hand sort of context was really kind of key and crucial for me. Okay, they said that their speech was like the twittering and the trilling of the o'o bird with a prolonged cooing sound like the lolly bird and a high chirping note. Okay, so they're describing the English language, how they interpret it, right? And they said that the foreigners were clothed from head to foot, wore triangular shapes on their heads. Okay, what does that mean? Triangular shapes on their heads, right? Which was that sort of nautical hat that they used to have, right? In during that time. right? And they had shoes on their feet, okay? Um, and there was another account that said they breathed fire, right? And breathed smoke, right? Because they probably smoked, right? But right here is sort of the crucial phase. Said Kaneaka Ho'ovaha, okay? They were not gods, okay? So right there, it's saying that immediately the people of Kauai um, tested Cook and figured out, came with the conclusion that they were not gods. Why? Because of one of the tests that they applied to Captain Cook. Okay, there were several. One, they were not gods, for they opened the sacred netted gourd. Okay, and I'll interpret this into modern English if, in a little while. Ka'eo caused Lele Mahoalani, the chiefess, to sleep on the heiau. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, the subtext or translated into a modern reading or English of that is that if Lono was a god, right, then he wouldn't fall into human temptations. Okay, which is basically to say they had someone go and tempt Captain Cook in to see if he would sleep with a human female, because an Akua wouldn't do that. So he did, and that's how they. One of the ways that they figured out that he wasn't um, an Akua. Okay. The other one was that they tested him to jump off a huge cliff into the water. Okay. Hawaiians, we still practice this today for fun. It was called Lele Pali back in the days, but we, we like to jump off cliffs, rocks, high places into the water. But this was practice, and this was a form of betting and, rivalry. So Ka'eo walked to a cliff, challenged Captain Cook to jump, and Captain Cook backed out. So he knew, hey, he's not one Akua. He's on Kane. Okay, so I want you guys to check out this short little video here that I put together, which is basically, okay, it's going to be a neat framework. What I like to have everybody do in my classes is to not just sort of look at a two-dimensional map, but let's look at a three-dimensional picture of the islands through Google Maps. It's actually through Google Earth, and take a tour of the Hawaiian Islands for Cook's first and second, primarily his second return to Hawaii, where he went from Maui to Hawaii Island. Okay, let's check this out because I think you'll get a really good understanding of how Captain Cook traveled.